Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is the first video I have on this YouTube channel, so it's probably going to be a little rough. So any criticisms or feedback you have, please leave it in the comments below. And if you have anything else you want me to talk about, could literally be anything. I have no direction whatsoever for this channel. I'm just going to start talking about things that I like and give my unsolicited opinion like one does on the internet. Thank you. So I recently watched Barbarian the other day and I wanted to give just my few thoughts on it. It is definitely one of the most unique ideas I've seen for a horror movie. This video will contain spoilers, so if you have not seen Barbarian and you wish to stay spoiler free, do not watch this video. This will be my only warning. Thank you. The basic synopsis of Barbarian is that a young woman rents out an Airbnb in Detroit, Michigan to have a series of job interviews in the area. When she arrives to the Airbnb, it is found that there is also another person renting the Airbnb at the same time, and because there is apparently a medical convention going on in town, no hotels are available. It's the middle of the night. I believe it's raining, so the guy who is also staying at the Airbnb says, hey, you can stay here. I promise I'm not a serial killer. The way they set up the beginning of the movie, which I believe is about the first half an hour, I want to say, 45 minutes of the movie, it sets up I honestly don't remember what his name is, but I know that he's played by Bill Skarsgard, so I will refer to his character as Bill Skarsgard. The way that they frame Bill Skarsgard's character is slightly sinister in a way. I feel like they kind of, I mean, I guess it's the product of they're trying to misdirect you to think that Bill Skarsgard has some sort of underlying motive or he's actually the bad guy. So they lead you to believe this whole build-up type of thing is that keeping her hostage, or he has some plan going on, he's actually the owner of the house, he knows what he's doing, blah blah blah. The ending of the first part basically ends with Tess and Bill Skarsgard, and they're down in the dungeon, and Tess has gone down to rescue Bill, and they're in the tunnel, and Bill is something bit me, this thing's there's something down here, and Tess is freaking out trying to get them to go. The creature runs up behind Bill, grabs his head and just absolutely destroys his head into the wall. And then it cuts to black. And then we're introduced to AJ, played by Justin Long. And it's kind of a little confusing at first because it seems completely unrelated to what the fuck's going on at the Airbnb. And so they're explaining his character, he's driving in his car, he gets a phone call, I guess he's a movie star or something, or a TV star, and he gets a call saying he's basically fired because another one of his co-stars has accused him of sexual assault. We finally get to the connection of AJ owns rental properties, and one of the rental properties is the Airbnb in Detroit, Michigan, where this creature and this dungeon is. Now I'm thinking AJ knows this is down there, maybe this is his own scheme, because he's already been confirmed as a sexual assaulter. Would it be so far to say that he has this creature in an Airbnb that he uses to kill people? I don't know. Maybe. When he arrives at the Airbnb, there's Tess's stuff, there's Bill Skarsgard's stuff. AJ finds the, dungeon entrance. And this is one thing I thought the movie did really, it was really well done. It was very funny. Is jumping back to the first part, when Tess discovers the dungeon, it's a very creepy feeling because she's very scared. And the way Tess is feeling is influencing how the audience feels. So when Tess was in the dungeon for the first time and she was discovering everything, it was scary. I was waiting for a jump scare. I was waiting for something. But then when AJ goes down and he's discovering all this, he's like, oh, cool, extra square footage I can put when I sell the house. With his measuring tape, measuring the long hallway that leads to the room with the bed and the camera, and then measuring the room and how much square footage can he add. And then he's Googling shit oh, how can I count the basement as square footage? And then he discovers the really deep tunnel that goes straight down, and he starts measuring that. And then the monster comes out, pushes him to a hole. And then we're introduced back with Tess. At one point, there is another cut where it's definitely a time jump, we're jumped back in time. And it shows us an older man coming out of the house. Everything else around it is very lush. It's very nice, very green. It was once a thriving neighborhood of people. I believe it seems to be set, I want to say the 50s or 60s. I'm not really sure. There isn't really any solid time frame of it. He goes to the grocery store. He says, my wife is having a baby and I need supplies. I need plastic bed sheets and like diapers and stuff like that. He follows a woman from the grocery store to her house. And now I'm thinking, okay, so this is the main villain. This is the guy. This is the weird dude. And he puts on a jumpsuit type thing that you would see like an electrician wear or a plumber. He goes into her bathroom to unlock her window so he can return later to, I guess, abduct her. And then he goes back to his house and he takes all of the supplies that he got at the grocery store to deliver this baby, and he opens the door to the basement and, assumingly goes down to the basement. He is capturing women, abducting them, and impregnating them to do fucking something, who knows. And then we're introduced to the monster again, who's like fucking sticking up like a ginormous baby feeding bottle through this gate, and Tess is getting all mad because he's just, not doing it. So then the monster gets mad and drags him out of the hole and takes him to this room that's like almost has like black lighting, and there's a single TV and it's like loop playing a video about breastfeeding. And it was so odd. We're seeing like more of the monster. It's not just like quick like jump cuts or like jump scares. And it's basically a woman, but she is pretty grotesque looking. She has very gross hair. She's extremely large. Like, she's a very large woman. She's not fat per se, but she's just large. She has a fucked up face. She has really weird teeth. Like, a bunch of teeth are missing. They're all jagged. She doesn't speak English. She doesn't really speak at all. She just kind of like screams and moans and says, "Baby?" Finally, when we're getting to almost like the kind of like the twist or the turn of like finding things out, AJ is able to escape from the grips of the mom monster, and he finds another room that is also really gross, and there is a man there, super old. He can't speak, he can't walk, he can only very vaguely gesture with going ooh like that. And for me, I was easily able to piece together like, oh, this is the guy from the jump cut all the way previously. Like, this was the man in the 50s who was abducting women, definitely. And then as AJ is kind of like trying to figure out what this guy is, he finds a giant, almost like bookcase thing of VHS tapes that are all labeled with descriptive words of like women. So like one of the tapes that's already in the VHS is, I believe it says like redheaded gas station. And I'm really glad that they didn't actually show what the contents of the video was, because you can, as the audience member, you can piece together what it is. So AJ watches the video. He turns around and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what? Like, what is your problem? All the meanwhile, Tess was able to escape out of the house, and she actually was able to flag down a policeman. And I guess it's necessary for like plot pushing or whatever, but I don't really like it when in like horror films, or I guess in any film, is when a person like escapes a bad situation and they're able to flag down police and they're explaining the situation to the police, and the police guy's like, okay, yup. Like, I get it. It's to push the plot forward so that way Tess can go back into the house by herself and, like girl boss it up and, be a strong woman and, save the day without the need of police. But it's just so fucking annoying. So she gets her way back into the house, and she's able to find AJ. And of course, AJ as a character is meant to be extremely unlikable. He's stupid. He's impulsive. He doesn't think things through properly. He's just kind of a dickhead overall. When Tess goes down to, try to find him and rescue him, when AJ was dealing with the old guy, the old man shot himself in the head with, I believe it sounds like a flare gun. It doesn't even sound like an actual gun. He shoots himself in the head. He kills himself. AJ takes the gun and, goes to try to escape. Well, they can basically conveniently bump into each other in the cave. Without thinking, he shoots Tess because, I don't know, he's stupid, I guess. And then immediately feels bad, which he should, obviously. And then they make their way out of the house. Then this, I believe it's technically a homeless man, but he stays in the area because he like knows and he wants to stay in the area to like warn people. He's able to help Tess and AJ by bringing them back to his little like water tower secret hideout type thing, and is like explaining to them like what that monster is. I wish they would have gone in depth a little bit more on this, because he basically just explains it as like they've been in that house for 40 years. He abducted these women, and then he would have babies with them, and then those babies would have babies, and then those babies would have babies. So it's just been this like cesspool of incest in that house over the past 40 years. But what doesn't really make sense to me is like the timeline of it, because if they've been in that house for 40 years, they don't really explain how long that guy has been doing that previously. Like in the flashback sequence, we don't know how old the woman is that is in the basement already. We don't know if she's the first person in the basement. We know that he ends up abducting the woman who he followed home and pretended to be a plumber for. Is she the second woman? Is she the third, the fourth, the fifth? We don't know. So what I don't really get is, after the 40 years, I'm guessing he's at least 40 in the flashback. So another flash forward 40 years. The old guy is 80 now. How old is the main like monster woman? Like this is how I pictured it in my head, is if the woman that is in the basement in the flashback sequence, if she's the first woman who has the first baby, that would be generation 1. And if women aren't able to get pregnant until they go through puberty, which for girls I guess is around like 8 to as old as like 14, 15, 16, they wouldn't be able to have a baby until that time. So in 40 years, that is at most only 4 generations. So you're telling me it took 4 generations to go from a semi-normal human like baby to whatever the fuck that monster is in 4 generations. I guess I get it, because it has to be like, oh, like movie logic. Like you can't think logically about it. It's a movie. It's not real. It's made up. It's like whatever. Anyways, getting back to where like the homeless man saves Tess, he's explaining, to them the whole thing. And then obviously conveniently, when the homeless man is like, oh, well, I've been here 15 years and she's never broken in here, she conveniently just fucking bursts through the cement wall and like absolutely rips this homeless man apart. Very unfortunate. He was super cool. And then AJ doing what AJ fucking does. He basically sacrifices Tess to try to get away from the monster, which ultimately fails. He pushes Tess off of the top of the water tower, and the monster goes, after her to save her. They land on the pavement. They're assumed dead, but then he finds out that Tess is actually still alive, and then he's like, he flips back. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to do that. Like, I just, like, I thought it would help, and like, I don't want you to like think that I'm a bad person, like blah blah blah. Like, bro, you pushed her off of the fucking water tower to save yourself because she was already wounded because you shot her in the fucking dungeon. Like, what? The monster didn't actually die. I loved this scene. The monster like picks him up, starts strangling him, and then pushes her long ass fucking fingernails like into his eyeballs and like squishes his eyeballs out. And that was so funny. And then it's a very tender moment, because then Tess is like kind of half alive. Well, she's mostly alive. And, she's laying there, and the monster is like, oh, like, let's pick you up. Let's go back to the house. And Tess is like, no, I cannot go back in there. Like, I can't do that. That's not happening. And then Tess eventually ends up shooting the monster in the head, and then it cuts to black. It's a good movie. It is objectively a good movie. It's funny at times. It's scary. It kind of is confusing a little bit. I wish they explained the timeline just a tad bit more, because like I said, it's unexplained whether the woman in the basement in the flashback to like the 50s with the old man, if that is the first woman that he abducted and impregnated, if it's the second, the third, like at what point, was he into his like whole abduction thing? Because he seems really calm. So it might be like he might have been doing this for a while. Who knows? I guess that probably would be my biggest annoyance with the film, is that it's just the timeline isn't very clear. Obviously, like the Airbnb thing, like that makes it obviously it's set in the present day. It's just it's a movie. It's definitely like a movie. That's my best way to explain it. Is it's a movie and it feels like a movie. And it's almost depressing in a way because the monster is obviously just like the product of really deep incest apparently somehow, and like, you know, being kept in a dungeon. Lack of vitamin C, I guess lack of vitamin C will do that to a woman. But yeah, overall I would give it 7 out of 10, and that is my overall opinion on the movie Barbarian. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any suggestions for what you'd like to hear me talk about, could literally be anything: movies, TV shows, video games, music. I have no direction whatsoever for this channel. I'm just kind of freeballing it for now. And I'd really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you guys so much.